The 100 episode for Murphy's Law. Now, this episode, what really caught me off guard in the very beginning was that it actually takes place 1 week after last week's episode. So, in a sense, it's real time. But it really surprised me that they found out that Wells died, but it took a week for them to realize he was actually murdered by someone within the camp. And the reason is they found him dead and they just thought it's the grounders. One of them caught him while he was outside, obviously just off by himself. They knew the girl was there. I'm sure everyone just thought, oh, she left and he was out there by himself still, and he was killed, and that was pretty much all there was to it. Let's put up this wall. So the 100 or whoever's left, they're building up this wall. They're protecting themselves. They're actually banding together really well, aside from the fact that the actual character Murphy is still being a douche and he's not really helping people when they say, I need water or I need this and I need that because I'm tired or exhausted from lifting these big logs. But for the most part, everyone's working together. They're building these walls. They're coming together as an actual unit so that they can defend themselves from actually being killed off by the grounders. And when they find out that Murphy was actually killed by someone within the group, things change real fast, especially since Murphy's weapon was used by the little girl in the last episode. And so, of course, they instantly think it's Murphy, especially because he attacked Wells on more than one occasion, but he's also the douchebag character. So when he's a douche to everyone and he tries to kill a character multiple times, or even tries to kill multiple characters, considering he tried to kill Jasper last time just because he was annoying him, you don't get a lot of support. And the evidence was against him, it was his weapon. And it's hard for anyone to believe, oh, you just lost your little blade, even though the one person that died is the one person you threatened on several occasions and got into an actual knife fight with. But they were stringing him up and things got really crazy. I wasn't sure if he was going to live or not, but they strung him up, and then the little girl actually admits that she is the one who killed Wells. And that really surprised me because I wasn't expecting her to admit it so early on in the episode. I thought she would actually watch him die and it would eat away at her, and that's pretty much what would happen. And then she'd give herself up, and then things would get a little bit weird for them in the next episode. Like, we killed this guy, and it was actually this little girl. But she gives herself up in the really early on in the episode. They save Murphy's life, and then he wants to kill her, and so do a couple of other people, but no one else really wants to. So he's against the group once again, and it's interesting to see the dynamic where they don't want to kill this little girl because it's the little girl, and he's the douchey person who's always hitting somebody or pushing somebody down and not helping people just get water because they're thirsty and exhausted. He's the douchey character that no one really likes, and he's that guy. I don't know his actual name, but he is always the douchey character in something, and it's just kind of funny. But he almost got killed, and then he goes on this spree trying to find this little girl, and the way it ended, I did not expect at all. They finally called up to him at the end. Bellamy, um, Clark, Finn, and I'm already Murphy, of course. They're all together and they have to decide what is going to happen with this little girl. And she doesn't want anyone to get hurt. When Murphy takes Clark and threatens to kill her, he makes a deal, and the way that deal worked out wasn't what they planned. But in the end, that little girl did die, and she sacrificed herself because the torment was just way too much for her. But it was a really interesting episode, both on the ground and in the sky. But the way it ended was just really, really well done. It was really just, it was crazy. I mean, she was gonna die anyway. If she gave herself up, she would have been dead, and Murphy probably would have been banished regardless because they didn't want to kill this little girl. But she sacrificed herself, and Murphy gets banished. He could survive. I'd love to see him actually make it, and he comes back, and he's for some reason wasn't just instantly killed by the grounders, or he was just able to survive on his own. But I'd love to see if they found him maybe 3 or 4 episodes after this one, and he's actually doing fine. He found food, or at least enough food to survive, or to just get by, not to thrive or anything. but he finds enough food to get by, and he's able to defend himself even though he just has a little knife. He makes some weapons or something like that, and I would love to see him just come back as a completely different type of character where he realizes he can't be that type of character and just be a dick to everybody. He has to take care of himself and he has to take care of other people because it's not just every man for yourself. It's they're the only people from the ark at least that have been on Earth in almost 100 years, and they do have to stick together. But we'll have to wait and see. He most likely he ends up dead, and they'll just find his body some episode later. But I definitely like to see him come back, and he's actually alive, and he survived his exile at least for a time. They might not. They probably wouldn't actually let him back in, but they find him sometime later, and he's still alive. Maybe he'll find the little cabin that Finn found, where it was a little bunker shelter. But definitely an amazing story arc on the ground. And as far as the art goes in the sky, definitely a good story there too, where Clark's mother was, for one, in the beginning of the episode, when Clark realized how she could torment her mother, I thought that was just an amazing part of the episode where she actually takes her cuff off and makes it seem as though she's dead so that her mother can be in pain. And also, all the other cufflinks get fried when they try to contact the Ark. So it seems as if everyone is dead, but Clark's mother and the girl Raven, they've been working on the ship. They finally get their chance, and we don't know what's gonna happen to Clark's mother. Most likely, she will get floated. We'll have to wait and see. Who knows what the Chancellor's really gonna do? He is the overarching person. It's his decision ultimately to pardon her, but we'll have to wait and see. And she saved his life, so that was one thing, but shooting a ship to Earth just to try to establish contact might not be enough. Not to mention the fact that they'll definitely place those little morphine charges on her too. But it was a good episode with them, with her and Raven working together and trying to figure out how do we get this final piece. And they introduced a character who is almost like a underground black market character, and I liked her introduction. And also we got to see the main bad guy. We see his mother is actually a person who is almost an evangelist for Earth, and she believes that one day they'll get back to Earth, and so they take care of the plants on the Ark. I thought that was an interesting component where he's almost the polar opposite, and all he wants to do is just cast people off, and he doesn't care about even really trying to go to Earth. He clearly gave up in the first episode when people started taking their cuffs off, and they just assumed they died. But I liked her character. I think she probably won't come back. It could have just been this one episode, but she seemed interesting enough, and she's the type of character who the council knows about her, and the main bad guy, he's been trying to get her for a long time, but he just can't get the proof on her. So I like her character. It's just one of those little nods to this underbelly of the Ark, and she's just one of those sly characters who can get you what you want and trade for something else. So it was really interesting. And we also got, because of her, a little background on Raven and her mother and how she had to do something she probably didn't want to in order to get certain items in order to survive. So that was interesting too. But it was a really good episode, and of course at the end of this, Finn and Clark end up together just as Raven is coming to Earth. I thought that is one of the most typical things whenever it's this type of situation where someone gets cast off somewhere, and just as their partner's coming in, it's like me and the main character got together. It's always like that, and this won't be any different. And I can't wait to see exactly what happens, because they do find her, at least based on the preview, they do find her in the very next episode. So I can't really wait to see exactly how things turn out between Raven and Finn now that he's slept with Clark and that weird love triangle. I'm not too interested in it being a love triangle that really lasts. I just want to see the conflict that comes from it. Considering they all seem like reasonable characters, I don't think it'll be anything insane. It'll be fairly typical. But I am curious to see how things play out, especially with the fact that they're on Earth. So if one person's angry about something, who knows what random character is going to come in to push them towards doing something insane. So we'll have to wait and see. But I definitely loved this episode. Thought it was really good. The whole trying to figure out what to do with this little girl who when it was Murphy who was the killer, they just wanted to take him out, and then it was the little girl, and everyone changed their mind because it's not the same thing when it's a little girl, but technically it is. Interesting episode. Really, one of those episodes that does kind of make you think at times. What would you do compared to, they were going to string up the one guy because there was a tiny bit of evidence and he was a dick, admittedly. And then they didn't want to do anything to the little girl, even though she admitted it because she's a little girl. So it's one of those ones that makes you think, and wasn't, and it was probably just as crazy. I wouldn't say it was just as crazy as the last one. When Wells actually dies, that's a far crazier ending than this one because he was the main character. But her killing herself off was definitely crazy too. And then we have a character leaving the Ark and landing on Earth. So the series is definitely changing. Every episode, things just get crazier and crazier. The group itself develops as a whole. The individual characters develop. So it's getting just better. Like, it was never bad, but it just keeps getting better. So I'm excited to see how crazy things get next week and whether or not they are able to contact the Ark in some way at least. But comment below, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Favorite parts, least favorite parts. And how do you guys think things are going to go now that Raven's going to be on Earth? Do you think the show is just going to change completely, or do you guys think she'll just kind of meld into the society and kind of just be stuck there like everybody else? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.